Hey, folks, this clip is brought to you by Farm Bureau Health Plans. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ. That is Farm Bureau Health Plans. All right. So it was an interesting news week for Tennessee football because leading up to this past week, it had been just a ton of positive news. We had a lot of fun last week talking about the 865 Live deal and the kind of recruiting momentum that it seemed like Tennessee had. And then Sammy Brown, which I think this one, I'm not sure he was ever coming to Tennessee, but he chooses Clemson. 5-star linebacker. If for anybody that doesn't know, we actually had an exclusive interview clip with him last week, and you can go back and listen to that. But he chooses Clemson. Fine, that one not necessarily surprising, but then J.J. Harrell, who was committed to Tennessee, decommits. And again, not wholly surprising necessarily because he had posted on social media that his recruitment was open a few weeks ago. And then turns out his recruitment was open. In fact, this wide open now. Is the sky falling? It's time to fire Heupel, isn't it, Zach? He's done. This is it. It's over. It's over.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no other way to go at this point. It was a good run, but you got to shut it down now. No, I'm not super concerned. I'm not concerned at all really about the JJ Harrell deal because we kind of saw that coming. We knew Ole Miss was kind of in the mix there. I think that's probably where he ends up at is Ole Miss with Lane Kiffin, maybe Mississippi State, one of those two schools. He's from Mississippi. We've been kind of expecting that. Tennessee got a couple of 5-star guys they're targeting, Mike Matthews, Ryan Wingo. Hopefully you get one of those guys, maybe both. There's other guys like Amari Jefferson that was, I think, technically still is committed to Tennessee for baseball, but that's kind of just a thing that doesn't really mean anything at this point because he's kind of focusing on football at this point. There's a guy from Louisiana, Kobe Young, that said Tennessee was his leader. He's a 4-star wide receiver from New Orleans. So you got guys out there. I mean, Tennessee's never going to really have problems finding wide receivers in this offense. And really, they've done it without some of those 5-star guys. They haven't had as Brew McCoy was a 5-star and coming out of high school, but he hasn't really played like a 5-star, since going to USC. They don't have to have 5-star talent. Definitely want to see what he can do with 5-star talent, but that's the least of Tennessee's worries right now. Sammy Brown, I'm with you. I never really thought he was going to end up at Tennessee. I was hoping, it seemed like Tennessee was in that top 3 where they were making some noise. Maybe they're running third, but it's like, hey, get him on campus a couple more times, have a big season. Maybe something special can happen. I thought he would end up at Georgia. That was my feeling. He's from Georgia. I was kind of surprised that he went ahead and committed to Clemson now. Seemed a little early, a little surprising, but at least he didn't go to Georgia, right? So you don't have to play him every couple of years at least. Definitely, you got to get those guys, though. So it was disappointing, but not shocking. I can't really say too much about Josh Heupel on that one. Losing Cameron Fountain, that's the one that I think hurts a little bit, especially since he was predicted just, last week or the week before that Steve Wiltfong predicted that he would end up at Tennessee. And we've talked about a ton on this show. We might have to change our approach moving forward. Now, usually when you see those crystal balls get put in kind of late in the process, it's over. It's game over. They know something that we don't. It usually ends up that's where that player ends up committing. So that one hurts to see him go to USC. You got to start landing those defensive linemen if you're going to compete with Georgia and Alabama and come out of the SEC. Those are battles you got to win, and they're still out there. Williams, Nwaneri, yeah, he's out there. That's a guy that Tennessee's really in the mix for. But Georgia, he just took a visit to Georgia, and he's tweeting out video or photos of himself in Georgia gear on Monday to go along with all that other bad news, just to kind of compound all of that. So now you're like, well, you're going to miss out on him too. Is he going to end up at Georgia, which would be a double whammy there? I don't think it's like cause for concern. I think it's just like disappointment. I mean, there's only so much Tennessee can do.
Farm Bureau Health Plans has been serving Tennesseans for over 75 years, and much has changed in Tennessee over the years, but some has stayed the same. Farm Bureau Health Plans has always valued personal relationships, especially when it comes to good health and good service. Plan on Farm Bureau Health Plans for health dental, and vision. For better coverage, better rates, and better service, go to fbhp.com/ATOZ or walk into one of their 200 plus locations across the state of Tennessee. That is fbhp.com/ATOZ for Farm Bureau Health Plans.
Until they're winning national championships, having 3-4 defensive players selected in the first round, they're going to lose some of these battles, and it's going to be hard to beat, especially Georgia. It's just the way it is. It's kind of a slow burn, this rebuild thing. You're not gonna go start landing 5-star defensive players over Georgia and Alabama and even USC out west just at the drop of a hat because you won 11 games last year.
Yeah, to go back to the Cameron Fountain one. This is pure speculation on my part, but I just wonder. So Wiltfong got, and he's almost always right.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, typically when they make those crystal ball predictions, the kid told them, I'm going here. Or the kid told the coaches that, and the coaches told Wiltfong something, similar to that typically. So I wonder if that happened. I don't know. And then they turned right around. I did notice, I'm looking at his timeline on 247, and for some reason, the prediction from Steve Wiltfong of him going to Tennessee has disappeared and conveniently been replaced by a crystal ball for him to go to USC. So congratulations on hitting that edit button there, Steve Wiltfong. But we all saw it happen. But regardless, he got. I don't know what happened there, but it's high school kids. That's the bottom line. It's high school kids. This is the stuff that happens. They're gonna say one week, "Oh, Tennessee offered me the bag, and I'm gonna go there," and then he goes to USC, and USC offers him the bag, and then he goes, "All right, well, USC's in Los Angeles, and they're gonna give me the bag. I'm going to USC." Like, it can be that tenuous. So I would just guess it's something like that happened. But overall, yeah, Tennessee's just in on enough big recruits overall that this isn't sending me spiraling. It'll have to come to the end of this class and the class overall being disappointing for me to really have any harsh criticism. You here's the thing. You win 11 games at the University of Tennessee, and you're going to get a giant amount of slack from me, period. And you're going to get it not just in wins and losses, but you're going to get it in recruiting. What do you want me to do? We watched garbage for 15 years and the man won 11 games. I'm not supposed to give him grace. I'm not supposed to trust this guy that he kind of knows what he's doing at this point. So that really is the bottom line to me, is that I just, at this point, I trust Josh Heupel implicitly. Really, why would we not? Like, that is really where this is at with Heupel. Going to trust him until the train comes off the tracks. And this is not the train coming off the tracks. It's just high school kids being high school kids. You probably weren't going to get Sammy Brown anyway. And you're in on a bunch of other 4 and 5 stars still. So that's really just how I walk away thinking about it. And until the class is sealed up and it's disappointing at that point, it's fine.
There's one thing about Josh Heupel with the recruiting that I don't think kind of gets talked about enough. And David Collins in the comments real quick mentions that Clemson just got Bryant Wesco, a 5-star wide receiver. Literally, as we're doing this show, he commits to Clemson. He was supposed to take an initial visit to Tennessee later this month in June. Maybe that visit still happens. I don't know. I don't think it's a guy that Tennessee had a lot of momentum with. I think they were trying to build some momentum there. So I don't think that's somebody that you necessarily missed on per se. You're just not really going to get the chance that you thought you were going to get to bring him to Knoxville. But when it comes to Heupel and recruiting, and this isn't to soften the blow of the past day, 24 hours in recruiting. I mean, they wanted Sammy Brown, they wanted JJ Harrell. They'll still keep recruiting him. It's not like they cut him loose, and they wanted Cameron Fountain. Like, these are guys that they wanted to come play at Tennessee. But when it comes to the way Heupel recruits and builds these classes, he's not just blindly pursuing every single 5-star, 4-star player. He's very careful about building classes, and he does this with the portal as well. Building classes that are going to fit Tennessee's culture, the culture they've built. They don't want to disrupt that. He's also trying to build classes that are kind of sustainable. That it's not going to be like some of those Butch Jones classes or the famous Lane Kiffin recruiting class in 2009, where half of the guys are gone in 2 years. Because you look at some of those classes Butch had, It's like, yeah, it's a top 5 class or top 8, 10 class, but half the guys left after 2 years, and then you're sitting there when they're supposed to be a junior, and you don't have this talent that you thought you were going to have. So in retrospect, that top 10 class really turned out to be like a top 25 class. And Heupel's trying to build these classes where guys stay. And they haven't had a ton of players transfer out under Heupel. They haven't really lost any key contributors. I mean, Tyon Evans maybe in his first year, and some of those guys that left before Heupel ever coached a game. But since then, they've been able to keep guys. They've kept guys around that had eligibility left, and they decided to stick around, like Princeton Fant the year before, like Jacob Warren this year, like Cedric Tillman, coming into this past season. I mean, guys that previously those guys went to the NFL even if they weren't getting drafted. Tyler Bray, there was quite a few of them. Derek Rogers, well, he got kicked out. Cordell Patterson, for example, Justin Hunter. I mean, all these guys, they weren't sticking around. Some of those were early round draft picks, but a lot of them were, undrafted, like Tyler Bray. So I think he's focused on building these classes that he can keep together and that will actually show up for 3 to 4 years at Tennessee.
Yeah, he's trying to find the dudes that are going to be the real deal, that are in it to be, I'll say in it to be in it, like really want to be a part of what's at Tennessee, not just like, oh, they hooked me up, so I'm gonna come. They really want to find guys that believe, and so I think it'll come together. Again, you win 11 games here, I'm gonna ride with you until I just can't anymore. So
there's games,
there's that.
Roster was somewhat depleted too, that wasn't at full strength.
Yeah, so I do obviously want to see the guy operate with 5-star players, because I think we saw it this past season, and you can tell it would be really, really special. But it's a matter of time, and we'll give it time. So there's really that.